Every Batman Arkham game in this series has a unique quality about them that elevates them above the rest. In Arkham Origins, we have some of the greatest boss fights that deliver the raw spectacle of battling Batman's iconic foes. In Arkham City, we have an excellent story with amazing gameplay, and in Arkham Knight, we have some of the most satisfying combat and traversal in any game with some of the best graphics that still look better than most modern releases. However, there's one game in this series that offers something completely different. A game that single-handedly changed the action-adventure genre and the way people perceive superhero video games. The game I'm talking about, of course, is Batman Arkham Asylum.
Do you really think you can win? Poor little bat.
The story of Batman Arkham Asylum is a very simple one. How does Batman escape and take down his arch-nemesis that has taken control of the asylum, home to his greatest foes and enemies? How does Bruce confront his greatest fears, traumas, and rescue his friends and allies? How does he stop the Joker? Because of the simple premise of this game, the experience feels very condensed and concise. It is all killer, no filler. In the first 2 hours of this game, you're introduced to Killer Croc, Harley Quinn, Victor Zsasz, Scarecrow, and the Riddler, which is honestly something I really miss, because these days every superhero game is concerned about saving these villains for future sequels so they don't run out of villains. However, in Arkham Asylum, they throw almost all of them at you and tease the ones they couldn't include for future sequels. The pacing in this story is something to be praised because they do not waste a single moment of your time in this 6-hour-long experience because there's always something crazy happening. Whether it's a boss fight against Bane, trying to overcome Scarecrow's influence, beating up these guys, or watching the island be consumed with Ivy's venom plants. Something always changes and happens every 20 minutes in this game to help mix up the simple gameplay loop, which helps keep this somewhat simple combat and traversal feel consistently engaging. However, the one thing this story gets oh so right is the tone. Nothing is ever taken too seriously in Arkham Asylum. The only times where things get dead serious are when Scarecrow shows up. Don't worry, we'll get to him soon. But for the most part, the entire experience is permeated with this light-hearted energy that creates a lot of fun and memorable moments. Here's a compilation of them.
Good. Let's test him out. No! No, I'm still up! Pickle, pickle. No!
No game in the Arkham series has even 10% the amount of fun this game is having with its premise, because they make every single moment the most absurd, most outrageous, hilarious opportunity to take advantage of. And my god, did they take advantage of it. In an age of so many The Last of Us's, God of Wars, and Horizons, it's nice to go back and play a game that knows it's stupid and is having fun with the wacky premise. And when it has to be mature and put on its big boy pants, they give us some of the most memorable psychological horror set pieces we've ever seen in a game. Brought to us by the mascot of this experience, Scarecrow.
You're in my world now.
Scarecrow in Batman Arkham Asylum is probably the best portrayal of any villain we've ever seen, because they do something so creative and so outrageously fun with this character that makes every single playthrough a blast for me. He not only confronts Batman on his fears, but also confronts the gamers on their own. For example, he'll make rooms loop on end, obscure noises play in areas they shouldn't be playing, or I don't know, making you think your game fucking crashed. Rocksteady played with the expectation that gamers know exactly how a video game is designed and the linear expectation of events that video games are supposed to follow. So Scarecrow threw all that out the damn window in a moment that made every single player experience something in a moment of confusion. Fear. Not only is this the best fake out in any game, probably ever, to the point where the static looked really convincing on my TV back in 2011, prompting me to freak the fuck out and worry and call my dad thinking the game broke. But all these Scarecrow levels and moments are by far the highlights of this game for me. It's an excellent twist on the concept, where each subsequent level becomes more and more challenging, with me hilariously dying 10 times in my Arkham Asylum boss ranking. The reason I love Scarecrow so much in this game, besides the way he shakes up the tone and gameplay, is he provides a very real threat and consequence by making Bruce confront his greatest internal fears and traumas. The first time we meet him, he tortures a room full of patients as he flees the area, gassing the room Batman walks into. As we progress through the level, we see a Commissioner Gordon get dragged away to his demise as Batman calls Barbara in a conversation he's always been afraid of having. Following this moment, we enter a morgue with 3 bodies lying on rusty tables. On the left, his mother, Martha.
Mom?
Help us, Bruce! Don't let us die!
On the right, his father, Thomas.
Father?
You should have stood up to him, son. Like a man.
And in the center, the harbinger of fear himself. The second encounter we have with Scarecrow is where we see a young Bruce Wayne walk down a looping hallway, as if we're replaying the horrific events that are about to follow over and over again, in almost despair of trying to make sense of something that can never be truly understood. This moment is perfect because without any words, we see and completely understand how Batman is born as we watch a broken boy weep tears into a pool of his parents' blood. Scarecrow in Arkham Asylum is not only a great plot device that gives us context on Batman to those who may be unfamiliar with the source material, he also provides some much needed variety to the overall experience in so many ways that adds towards the Arkham Asylum experience. It's simply excellent. However, there is one more component to this game that in my opinion elevates it higher than any other game in the Arkham Quadrilogy. If there's anything I could praise the most in this game, it would be the raw comic booky ass atmosphere that gives Arkham Island more identity, hell, more presentation than most open world games we see today. Walking down a hallway as the intercom jingles echo the room, or exploring the ambient environments of Killer Croc sewers are just a few examples of how excellently crafted and designed this asylum is and how iconic the layout is. Because there's only 5 buildings on Arkham Island, which all have their own identity and belong to a certain villain, where we can find these tapes and recordings from their individual therapy sessions. Quick side note, all these tapes are fantastic because they serve as an environmental collectible where you're encouraged to explore so you can uncover these stories and learn more about these villains. Honestly, it's a real shame they didn't keep these as a collectible in future games, because Rocksteady would replace these as a reward for completing Riddler trophies, which, if you know this channel, I'm not really a fan of the Riddler trophies. Something I have to talk about as well is the music. Oh my god, dude, the music in this game is so good! Some of my favorite tracks play when you're beating up goons and the orchestra will just pop the fuck off. I mean, if I'm gonna be completely honest, the game probably has my least favorite soundtrack in the series, but there's no denying this was a great foundation for future games to build upon, and still is really successful on its own. The last thing I want to comment on in terms of atmosphere is something the other games don't really take advantage of, and that's ambience. In all the other games, the soundtrack is constantly popping off and filling you full of that Dark Knight testosterone. However, in Arkham Asylum, they take advantage of more ambient sounds that really take advantage of the environments in the island itself. My favourite example is in the Killer Croc sewers, where you'll hear the growls and loud splashes around you, creating this anxiety and suspense of the creature lurking around his lair you trespass on. Sound design is so important when it comes to creating atmosphere because it's a component that creates the illusion of this being a living, breathing world instead of a video game sandbox. The Arkham Asylum was designed in such a way to create the feeling of immersion and quality of life. The further you progress into the game, the island changes more and more, becoming as grotesque as the patients that inhabit it. Also, the lore surrounding this island is so outrageously fascinating, with every building, every surface of the island feeling alive and flowing with history, thanks to the Amadeus Arkham tapes that fill us in on the asylum. All these things culminate together to create the most satisfying and immersive environment I think I've ever explored in a video game, to the point where I occasionally jump on and do speedruns as a go-to escapism game. I love it. In conclusion, Batman Arkham Asylum is my favourite superhero game ever. It's fun, outrageous, wacky, absurd, and has one of the most enjoyable campaigns I've experienced in a AAA video game. If you enjoy single-player linear games, I highly recommend you check this one out, or at the very least play one of the other Arkham games if you're looking for a more modernized experience. This game is not just one of the best superhero games of all time, it's one of the best video games of all time. And that's why Batman Arkham Asylum is my favourite in the series.